Thank you, Mehmet Bey, for that introduction. And I'm glad we have sort of let go of our Turkish habits, because if we kept telling each other, you go first, we've been here all day. So, it's an honor and a privilege to be here as part of Turkish Philanthropy Funds. And I'm especially honored to be joined by Hamdi Bey, whose story has inspired me, and I'm sure many of us, in great ways. As they say, today is the Children's Day, and I think entrepreneurs and children have a lot of parallels in terms of mindset in common. The curiosity they have, playfulness, and always learning, and the energy, the boundless energy that the children has, is what the entrepreneurs have. And we have in Mr. Ulukaya, I think, in Turkish we say ete kemiğe bürünmüş hali. In English, it's the coming to life of what entrepreneurship is all about. And as I looked at the panel, different panels of today, I think he touches everything that we're going to talk about here. So I'm just so excited to hear about your story. One of the things that I noticed is, obviously there's a huge entrepreneurship story of starting with this derelict plant and making the decision to get involved with that. And that's one part of the story. But there's also a part of the story about social impact, whether it's the work you do with refugees, or the incubators, or I call it the HUG, the Hamdi Ulukaya initiative of empowering young people to for entrepreneurship and creating an incredible multiplier effect. So there's the entrepreneurship, there's the social impact, but then it also seems to be all integrated. It's not like you're doing business on one side and then let me go help on the other side. It's all part of one integrated story. Yep. So I don't want to say a lot more and steal your time, but I think we would all love to hear from you about the story of this.
This is Ahmet, this is amazing. Thank you. You're very generous. Enormous amount of respect and admiration for your life journey and what you've done as a human being, as an executive, as a leader of a corporation, but most importantly, as someone who has seen the both world, Turkey and the United States and around the world, and what you do with it, and you still do today.
Thank you.
You fight for children, you fight for people in need, you give your time to organizations like TPF and others, and you inspire many, many others to be an executive with dignity and like yourself. So thank you, I'm honored to be next to you. I think I will always say this, I was in the factory in upstate New York. I think it's in the second year or third year. I'm inside the factory, I'm covered with yogurt from bottom to head. And nobody in the world knows who's the person behind Chobani. It's early days. And I get a phone call, and they said, someone named Muhtar Kent wants to talk with you. Now, my secretary up there didn't know who Muhtar Kent was, but of course, I know who he was. It's like, are you sure? Why would he call me? Soon enough, I picked up the call. And he still talks this way. He said, Hamdi'cim ya, I'm so proud of you. Here's my cell phone number. And I'm going to introduce you with Ahmet Bozer too. Anything you need, you call us. Just any question, do you have any problems, any question, you have to call me. And here's my cell phone number. And since that day, I have been in touch with Muhtar. And the point I'm trying to make here is that I was alone by myself up there in that mountain, in that small village in upstate New York, not sure where this was going to go. And then you have these idols up there, right? You guys made it. You guys made it the top of the corporate world. It's Coca-Cola. And yet, he would pick up the phone and find out what my number was and call me and give me that. And it meant tremendously to me. And there are a few people have been a light for us, especially for us to be in the United States and say, we could make it to top of the corporate ladders. And we could stay who we are as as people from Turkey, people who has the Anatolian roots. And yet, we could also be relevant in the United States and be the part of this country and citizens. And you walk that path because you have examples, and you have been that example to us. So thank you. The second point I want to make is TPF. I've been here for a long time. I discovered last week, actually, that you have been on the board, and you've been part of TPF for the last 10 years. And I said, more you dig about TPF, more gold comes out. It's the combination of the amazing minds and hearts. Every board member you interact, every supporter of TPF you interact, you just interact with one of the most amazing humanity and selfless giving. I always knew Haldun Abi, like you met with him and then you realize, the depth of this organization. When earthquake happened, all that combination of hard work, but at the same time living in that fine line of trusted above and beyond any opinion, welcoming, but keeping the quality and keeping those standards. It's very hard to do, especially if you come from Turkey. It's very, very difficult because we are very emotional people. We don't know how to do those things. We don't know how to keep those things in line, which is good and bad at some point. And when in need, in a great time, how this organization come together, unleashed all this learning into a service of the people in Turkey and connecting those dots between people like myself and all the others who wanted to reach out to the field. And that years of work, that web that has been created, get into the work and made an enormous amount of difference. So today, I think we celebrate the TPF families, all this work, all these times. I've been trying to build, tent all these years. It's not easy to do, so Şenay Hanım, every single person, Mehmet, every single person at TPF, thank you so much. We owe you so much. All right, so I got out of my chest. Yes, I have no affiliation with TPF. I'm not in the board. I'm not, but I'm just a big fan. And
thank you.
There are a couple of hats that I would carry, like Chobani, Fenerbahce, La Colombe, tent. TPF is the next one I would put it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, the Fenerbahce hat is a bit problematic after. So I wear it too, but not. Hamdi Bey has been, of course, showcasing another incredible trait of entrepreneurs, which is humility. He gives others the credit for in his journey, but I'm sure, Hamdi Bey, in your journey, you've had a lot of hopes, fears, and you've dealt with a lot of difficult challenges. Just pick one.
Yeah, tell us about the chances of me sitting here next to you was less than 1% any given moment for the first 10 years of my journey. It was impossible to think that someone from my background in a category that is dominated by two largest global brands like Dan and your plate, and very limited resources, like tiny bit of resources, old factory, few people, and I'm going against this category, and you say, what are the chances? Like, it's literally impossible to imagine. And when you enter in the world of retail, especially the way that we entered, I wanted to enter, you don't go to the specialty, you just go to the mass. And I have this old factory, and Rumi says, Mevlana says, it's like when there's a ruins, there might be treasures. Mm-hmm. In that factory, I found the treasure, really. It's not only the building, but also the people in that factory. Then here again, we're talking about entrepreneurship and impact that entrepreneurship can have as a force. Here's this factory get closed by a large corporation, Kraft, after 70 years. It reminded me where I grew up, like next to Euphrates River in Erzincan. That's why we hated corporations. We just didn't like them because of the damage they would do, irresponsibility, and a tough time you can never trust. You can never rely on them. They'll just leave you. And that's I would say half reality. That exact thing was happening in that little town in upstate New York in South Edmonston. These are all companies just closed the factory, left. And here it is, almost 70, 80 years, generations over generations, people work in this place. And they left. Now leaving, okay, you lose a job, and you might find a job in another place, not a big deal, but the biggest damage is emotional damage. What it does to that community, what it does to those people, what it does to those children. We're talking about children. And we're talking about 23 Nisan. I remember in our village, İliç in Erzincan, 23 Nisan was not just children's holiday, it was a holiday that everybody participated. And it was the day. And we all celebrated children. We remember being celebrated by everyone. All the parents will come into the, this small town's street, and everybody's nervous coming to the end, whether you're reading a poetry or an essay, or you're going into some kind of, competition. It was a celebration. Here you are, you're looking at the children of places that abandoned, those children get dramatically damaged. That's why when I started Chobani, the first initiative that I have done, after Chobani came to 2007, 2008, late 2008, the first thing that we did, we built Little League baseball field for our children. I think Mehmet, you came. Yeah, Tarkan came too. And Kurt came. He was very little. We built Ahmet Bey a Little League baseball field. And I said, I want to build the one just like the one in Cooperstown. I have nothing to do with baseball, but I lived in Cooperstown.
But you have the hat.
Exactly. I know what it means in children. And I built this, we built this Little League baseball field in Norwich with the lights, with the scorecard, with the families to come and do picnic and everything. And they said, why? They're just playing in the mud. I said, the first thing I can give is to tell the children, you're worth it. The first thing. Before I tell to their parents, before I tell to give food away or whatever it is, education, first, I want to tell the children, you're as valuable as any other children. And the people who abandoned you, they didn't know that. And I remember that day that we're opening, Mehmet will tell you, we still have the pictures. We have the whole town came there. It reminded me the day we celebrated children in our village in Erzincan. Everybody came around that field, and I threw the first pitch. Might be the last pitch since then. And these children, we were all in baseball uniform, I was too, and they were asking me to sign their uniforms. By far, one of the most amazing days I've ever had in my life until that moment. It might be still. Those children were completely elevated. They were so elevated. We got elevated with it.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying, is your resources are extremely limited when you start things. But something has to elevate you. And money can never elevate you. It can get you excited. Mm-hmm. Elevation is a completely different soul set, mindset. When you go to that area, the common rules don't apply anymore. You don't have money, you don't have experience, you don't have resources, you don't have people, you don't know where you're going to get these machines from. They don't apply to you anymore. You'll find a way. And you cannot learn this from the books or even listening to someone like me. You just elevate it, you're walking in, and you're in a war. Mm-hmm. It's not a good example, because you never want to give an example with wars. But I always listen to my brothers when they give these examples. Is when there was a war, I don't know which one, a soldier brought a tank on the top of the mountain. And then the tank was on the top of the mountain, that it was not supposed to go there. It's not designed to make it up there. It's very tall. And the war stopped. And they bring in all these equipment back, and they said, well, bring those tanks back. And the soldier said, this is, Komutanım, create another war, I'll bring it back. I can't now. This is a common sense. I can't touch this. We were so elevated up in that small town upstate New York. I was angry because healthy anger is okay. I was angry at people who abandon. I'm excited, but I also know I can make a difference. And that's the mindset. And I have 4 people. We had the first board meeting. The guy said, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to paint the walls. And one of them said, and I'll finish it, he says, Hamdi, I've been working in this factory for the last 25, 30 years. We've never painted those walls. This factory is closed. The people are left. We're trying to make a decision what we're going to do with our life next. Tell us you have more ideas than that one. I said, I have no idea. I didn't tell them, but I had no idea. The only thing I can think of, the walls outside are not painted, and I can do something about it right now, and that's what I'm going to do. But the next is going to come. We painted those walls that summer. I talk about this all the time because it's true. With those 4 people, 3 of them are still in the factory. 5 years later from that moment, we were a $1 billion company. We were making $1 billion sales. That 4 people became 1,000. I mean, if you said somebody that I'm going to start this in 6 months from now, and the 5 years from that, without raising any capital from anybody, we're going to build one of the most beloved brand. We're going to rewrite new ways of how to start and conduct a business and what it means to have a business. We'll invest over $1 billion in infrastructures and plants. And we're going to capture enormous amount of market share from these big guys who's poisoning people with sugars and bad stuff. And we'll still sound, act like the same as what they are today. We're not going to lose ourselves. And I'll finish it this way. This is the power of Anatolian women. This is what I say. Because this journey is a very interesting journey, bad days and good days, and you need a support system. Whether your partners, whether people who you love and trust and around you to tell you, don't lose yourself, or someone, like in my case, it was my mother, who I kept it very close, and I knew what I would do, she would get upset with me, and what the things that she would say, you go ahead. So everything that I did right, it was because of the one in there. And I said, this belongs to her. And I think what we have grown in Turkey, in Anatolia, in my case, in Erzincan, and I started to say this, Ahmet Bey, on an incubator side of too, everything that we learn is we have it in our pocket. We walk into a place like this, the only thing we need to do is bring back to life. And those are the most valuable currencies.
The fascinating thing, by the way, there are too many fascinating things in this story. I think one of the reasons is the connection I felt to Hamdi Bey, because our roots are like 1 hour apart from each other. He's from Iliç, and my mother's side is from Kemah, Erzincan. And I can sort of smell the Anatolian, Eastern Anatolian goodness and community in all our conversations. But the fascinating thing here, I think, is also quite relevant to being a Turkish-American entrepreneur is you started thinking with a community lens. Most of the time, when people go into entrepreneurial ventures, they go with a financial lens. But I think you didn't ignore the financial lens.
Yep.
Somehow you had the mindset of starting with the community and not being afraid that whatever you do, by prioritizing that thinking, you will figure out a way to build a business. I think that's a significant mindset change or unique mindset that we don't see here as much. We tend to think it's either profits or community. No, it's
both.
It's all together. But to be able to come up with that, the kind of sensitivities that you have talked about in terms of how you cared about the children, how the environment was maybe not cared for by big businesses who've made an investment there, you've done it differently. So maybe I just would like to take the conversation. This is a rare mindset. We really have to recognize that this is a rare mindset. And I'm realistic enough to think, well, I think if this mindset was to dominate the thinking in the world today, we will make so much more progress.
For sure.
But I'm also realistic to think that it's a journey. We're not going to get there in 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. But I also think every one of us here, in our own jobs, have something that we can do to advance this kind of thinking in where we are. Any thoughts about, what would we advise people who are sitting here in terms of what they should take from this day, in terms of how they apply this kind of thinking to what they do every day? Because yours seems to have come naturally to you.
Yeah.
You came from Illich, you've observed all these things, you just gave us such colorful examples of cues, and I think painting the wall was just an incredible sign or a symbol of your thinking of how you built the business.
Yeah, and that goes to the line.
Maybe you can start. How do you perpetuate this mindset in your own company for people to think that way inside your own company?
Yeah, the paint in the wall. I think I discovered that later on, and I use it all the time. Is a magic to it. It's a way of entrepreneurship. Is when you start walking the way appears. And that's Mevlana, right? That's Rumi. And not knowing there's a magic to it. And sometimes it gets afraid of it, scared. Because unknown it can be scary, especially in this journey of entrepreneurship. But there's this magic is that unknown that you discover. And I come down to first thing. You have to recognize, especially I'm telling to my early colleagues of the entrepreneurship journey, this journey is very personal. I didn't realize it, and then, but it's very personal. And what it does to you, either case, you so-called successful or unsuccessful, what it does to you is enormous. And I think I value the most of that than anything else. Because, I grew up with nomads. And I'm up in the mountain. I sit here between my journey from this moment to where I grew up in the Bozer Mountains with the shepherds. Sometimes I talk about those things. People think that I'm talking about the biblical times, like the 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's the journey that I've made. This is the journey I've made, is that. So I am kind of a biblical time. So I grew up in areas where we lived under the tents, and the council, the elders will meet, and they will decide what they were going to do when someone does something unpleasant, or which direction they were going to move. You're talking about honor, you're talking about the gravity of someone who's respected. You're talking about stars and I always wondered. I wonder what's behind this tallest mountain I see. What's behind that mountain? That curiosity. So my point is the personal journey. I never knew that I could lead people. I never knew that I could have an opinion on brands and marketing. I never knew that I had this most amazing palate that I can taste things and say this is good or no good.
It must be the Erzincan salt.
It must be the Erzincan
share that
the Kemal salt.
Yeah, Kemal salt.
And the discoveries that you have through this journey is you cannot compare with anything else. It's most valuable. But then there's a time comes, someone like me comes from that perspective, and I naturally come to that question, is why would I do what I do after I make enough to support my life or my family life going forward? Is it worth keep making yogurt? Why would I do that? And I think that question came to me when I made that first field with the children. He says, oh my God, this is more than yogurt. You can actually have a wonderful effect on others and continue to grow, and this could be richer, bigger than making the yogurt. So for me, it was a discovery. The style of it is I think that's what you're asking. It comes to just two questions. Before my Chobani journey, I have a little bit of cheese experience, making cheese, but I have never been to a business school. I've never met anyone who had done this before. I never knew anyone. I'm really not even read any book how to do anything, stuff like this. So I'm coming from a complete unknown place to this journey. I had to do it the way that is natural to me. So because I didn't know any other way. So I had to do the way that I know how. That's one thing. The second thing is, I discovered very early on that this form of business of entrepreneurship is put into a place where people need to fold in, where you can actually create something that falls around you and who you are. So it's not like one way of doing this. There's so many ways of doing this. And sometimes not following anybody else's footsteps and creating your own based on your strength, a personal interest, and what makes you excited. It could be the best way to do it. Sometimes too much learning, too much reading, and too much listening is not so good. I think my advantage was I had no one to listen to. I didn't know any better, so I had to follow what I thought it would be the best way. So it turned out to be a good way. Now, there is this angle, is reality. And I'm looking backward. When you make your journey truly bigger than market size, dollar signs, and all that kind of stuff, true impact. You want to solve a problem. That's what entrepreneurship is. You're bothered by something. This yogurt is not good, I can make it better. This system is not good, I can make it better. Why do I have to do this? I can do it this way. Why do I have to wait for the cars? I can get the app to do it. You're bothered by something. And that's when you start. That's what initiates it. But solving that problem is a bigger idea than creating multi-billion-dollar product. Solving society's problem, impacting positively something that you see that is not right, is a bigger idea. So once that is in there, I promise you, you find a way. It just happens. It just happens. But there's a big chunk of percentage that this is going to fail, and you do it anyway.
Yes. And that, I think, is the fortunate situation we have to be in this country, where, sometimes in the older cultures you could say, if you went bankrupt in a smaller country, even in Turkey at the times, you couldn't go out on the street. It'll be a shame. Like you went back. But here, that's the culture. You can try and fail. But the amazing things I get from this is.
But I'll give you one example. Is in the early days of Chobani, I heard that there are refugees that settled in upstate New York, in where you are, Utica, which I lived in a one-bedroom apartment there. They said they cannot find a job. I don't make it quickly. I went to refugee center, Ahmet, and I said, what's the problem? We're hiring. And said, well, these are people who are legally settled, and they have hard time finding jobs. I said, okay. They don't have cars, they don't speak the language, and they don't have the training they need. And on top of it, people unfamiliar with this population, and they're a little bit afraid to hire them. I said, we're hiring. We'll get buses and cars. We'll get translators in the factories. We'll train them. Let's come in. That's 2009. When we built the plant in Idaho, the 30% of our populations were all refugees. And we went through another election cycles, and then people started writing stuff, which is unfortunate. That idea turned into this tent, which I saw what happened to the refugees' life in my own company, and how much Chobani has benefited from these amazing people from 16 different nationalities. As I said, like you're talking about Africa to South America to Asia to all. And what you know is refugees are going through, before they come to safety. Today, tent is over 430 multinational big corporations all around the globe hiring and training refugees simply because of that idea. And what you say is, which I truly believe, that hiring refugees, being conscious of environment, being conscious of social issues, and making DNA of your company is one of the biggest engine of your growth and success in the company. Once you realize that, once you invest in that, then it's like comes to your point that you made, is when you are socially conscious and truly mean it, and you make it part of your business, that is also one of the biggest reasons that you'll be successful in the financial side of the journey.
That's wonderful. So many valuable nuggets of wisdom in all these stories. One being, I think you said, it's a personal journey.
Yeah.
That the reason you do it really is to, at the end of the day, you realize your better self at the end of the exercise.
But you have gone through this journey, and we were talking about it yesterday, and I remember if you look at Coca-Cola's with the plastics or getting the vaccines to the villages in every corner of Africa using the Coca-Cola trucks. And being, there was a Turkish gang in transforming this company up in, with your leadership. But you've seen a lot, and a lot of people come to you with their entrepreneurship journeys and ideas, and social ideas. The one that we were talking about yesterday, the Türkiye'deki köy okulları, Koda. Like that, many organizations. How do you see this new movement of, anecdote was given, 40% of entrepreneurs are somehow connected to lifting social issues and making differences. What is your observations, Ahmet Bey, based on your rich experience and seeing all these examples, whether in Turkey or here? How do you see this ecosystem of entrepreneurship when it comes to new way of making a difference in the world? At the same time, how do you see it from the Turkish side of things, both social entrepreneurship and other innovations?
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating thing, and I'd like to recognize some of the live examples of what inspires me who are in this room already. One of them is Mrs. Kamışlı and her team from Esas Holding, and one of them is Kürşat. He's sitting right here, an Edison Award winner of the Smart Cane, and I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned everyone, but I see and I smell the kind of values in action in Turkey at a grassroots level.
Yeah.
We don't hear about them a lot. I would not have heard about those examples if I wasn't involved in them. But we hear a lot about Turkey on the press and everything, but I really believe that the civil society and the business world is an incredibly powerful force.
Yes.
That is making a difference at a grassroots level and higher level in transforming Turkey. And that's why Turkey is still continuing its journey because of the works of that entrepreneurial spirit. The one message I'd like to give everyone here is that the civil society in Turkey is much more capable and than we think. I would make a bet on that. And they are much more impactful than we think. And what TPF does here is it's like a bridge between our, one's philanthropic dreams in Turkey and that civil society that has developed incredibly well. I left Turkey in 2012, so it's 13 years. And in the first 5-6 years, when I looked at what has developed there in terms of civil society, it really amazed me, and it's gone despite all the problems, despite the funding problems, despite all the bureaucracy. It has just kept, marching forward. And it's if anybody's thinking about what can I do for my country, is connect with that civil society, give a helping hand, do something with them, because there are just too many of them who are doing incredible work. And here, coming back to the global...
So by the way, you get email from Ahmet Bey either introducing someone professional to you, or introducing a company to you, or introducing an organization that does amazing work to you. He never asks for anything for himself. He's always using that, and you see this in everywhere. So
no, it's whenever you're on occasion to connecting things, that's just the biggest joy, I think. And here, I think when you look at it, I really would like to get the conversation back to the mindset. But when I look at how corporations are dealing with, social impact, I almost see like 3 milestones. One is there are corporations who just want to manage the stakeholder pressure. If a stakeholder other than the shareholder is putting pressure on you, oh, you have to use less water, this and that. The lowest level in this is, let me try to manage this guy so that I don't have a problem. Then sort of they move to what I call like, do no harm. Okay, I should just be active so that I don't do any harm, so that I'm protected.
I'm good, yeah.
So that I can continue to maximize my profit, which is always a good objective. But that's another mindset. And then there are very few, one sitting right next to me here, who I'd say, naturally, whether they acquired this or otherwise, they really have sort of an enlightened sense of self-interest. It is they think it's in their best interest for the community to thrive so that they can thrive. Or they just do it naturally like you did, because that's how you grew up. I'm really hopeful that that move may take decades and decades, but I don't think it'll ever be, it's a utopian vision to think that, that will be there soon, or that will always be there. But I think it's about moving forward towards that. The more people think about their businesses with that kind of a holistic view, longer term view, caring for people, trusting the fact that if you activate the people, everything will let go of the control a little bit. It'll happen, just like you did. And so every step we can take along that way, I think will take us there. And certainly, it's not only about, even though business, I think, is the greatest force. To me, like we used to get, when people get frustrated with their governments, they put pressure on businesses on those issues so that they can activate the governments. I think business is probably one of the most powerful force in the society, but civil society is catching up. I think we can affect this kind of change in mindset by getting involved with the civil society and seeing everything as one whole, and not always thinking that, okay, I'm going to get so much benefit from that today, but just trusting the universe that things will conspire to move things forward. So,
and I think it should be very natural to people who grew up in Turkey, has connection to that culture. And I say this, there's an enormous amount of similarities from that mindset. You go to upstate New York with a similar, embedded in this country's fundamentals, is that you're open to change. Your risk tolerance is very high because of you living in that land. Who knows who's going to attack next? You always is prepared for the next thing, what's going to happen. That's an entrepreneurship. And the recent history also the same. Then you look at the culture. Someone, we were having dinner the other day, I asked, it's like, where did you get this? I said, well, I grew up in a town, and sometimes people think I'm telling stories, that if one store made its first shopping, he would ask somebody else to do something else because the other one hasn't done siftah yet. The fairness of the business people were always embedded. And then you live in a society, at least where I lived, and I know it's every corner of Anatolia is the same, is you do the good and you hide. You don't talk about it. Right? It's that excellent space, excellent place. And the respect that you have. And we are very loud, and sometimes we fight a lot even among our own families. When the time comes, we know how to unite. And Deprem showed us. So when you put all of these into a journey of entrepreneurship, it becomes, every single one of them becomes very, very valuable. And you see that here too. And that's why when I started HUG, our initiatives, when the kids came, and we put it some kind of, we invested a lot, is to some kind of technique that we can get entrepreneurs from all across the country in Turkey. So we were getting from geography of probably one of the widest ever been done, and then the gender 50-50 with female, male. And they came, and I said, look, I'm not going to give you any secrets. I'm not going to tell you anything. They will all come here for a month. But if anything, this investment that we make in this journey, the one thing that I can make, that I hope that you can get out of this journey, is who you are, where you come from, is enough. You don't need much. Just recognize what you have. Mm-hmm. Just forget about all the noises that you hear from everybody. Just recognize who you are. Look at your mom, look at your dad, look at your brothers, look at the people who lived in that village or town that you interacted with. Look at all those interactions. Remove all the noisy ones and get to the soul of it, source of it, and implement that to your thinking every single day. And all the goodness that you see, that implement it into your journey every single day. I don't want to do, like that journey, I tell you, my team has given me the anecdote. We started entrepreneurship. So we have 100,000 applications to the entrepreneurship program. It's 282 entrepreneurs from 63 cities in Turkey. Startups grew 416% on average, every single one of them we've done, yeah. 70% of them went global, of those companies. It's crazy. 45% received investments of everyone. We did it for years. We're starting back again because of the pandemic. We stopped it. And 54% of them were women entrepreneurs from Turkey. And this was one experiment that I did with me and with my team in Turkey. So what you're talking about is gold mine. Like you said, the whole country is a gold mine. Then how do we get the ecosystem? Without financing, without ecosystem of investment, this doesn't come to the right place. So there's the angle that everyone has to believe himself that this is doable. Then the investment really believe in itself. And then this new model of saying, when you're socially conscious, you're actually not against your success of the company or your journey, is actually accelerated. It actually helps, actually makes it faster. And the investment community board has to believe in these things. So there's long to go, but anyone can lead this idea that business can be a huge force to make change and for a better world. I bet in Anatolia. I bet in Turkey. I bet the entrepreneurs that come from Turkey. And every instant that I get together with financial communities, don't look at Turkey what it is today. Mm-hmm. Look what it can be. And what kind of role it can play in the region, but also globally. And nothing more important, I don't want to go into politics, is the tie between the United States and the Turkey to stay alive and connected. And politics can go all about. I mean, I give our Excellency, our ambassador, all our prayers. So that there is amazing leaders and he started his job. Politics can go up and down. But that tie that created between people of business and entrepreneurs and the companies
will flourish.
They are the most important one. And I value that relationship important. And I think that blood, that connection between Turkey, that lifeblood is extremely important. And TPF plays that role really well. So with that, I think I wish everybody the journey the best. What you know is, like Ahmet Bey said, when we started our journey with our HUG, over 40, 50 professionals from Turkey in the United States, all across the country, different sectors, connected with all the fellows that came from Turkey, and some of them continue to do so. What you know is, even though we don't get together too often, but we are very connected, and if there's an idea comes in, everybody, puts their mind and heart to help and to move this forward. So we are not alone, and you are not alone, and that support system is absolutely around.
I'm so sorry that this feast has to come to an end.
Yes.
But I would just finish this with a wish that the magic Hamdi Ulukaya touch keeps touching more and more and more people, and we all do our part in supporting that. Thank you, Hamdi.
Thanks
It was
so much.
wonderful. I think I have to give you a hug. Thank you. Thank you. Çok teşekkür ederim.